What a view! This is incredible. An Ontario County nonprofit. Overlook Horizon high-altitude balloons.
3, 2, 1, launch.
Hey guys, Tori here from Overlook Horizon. Hope you're doing well, because we're already off to an interesting start here, having some random technical issues as I was trying to get up and running. I could not hear that entire intro in my ears, which hopefully you guys heard it and just wasn't a silent intro, but it was showing on my screen that it was playing, but I was not hearing it at all in my ears. So hopefully you guys have some sort of audio. Otherwise, we're going to troubleshoot this live, and this is what kind of stream this is going to be. But how's it going, everybody? We're here. We're live. It's late night Space Lobster after hours. It's 12:40 a.m. Eastern time here on, what day are we? Friday now, August 7th, 2020. If you're watching this back afterwards, I will put timestamps in the description below, so you can skip ahead if you want to jump to all the good parts. But they're all good parts, aren't they? Aren't they? You guys all want to stick around. We have lots of fun. We have so much fun around here. I got new buttons, new toys. We're gonna try to have some fun. This is the problem. See, my stream got all askew because I got some new toys from our fans in the Discord. Like let's see.
Deorberate.
Right? We got deorberate. I got all the deorberate buttons. It's gonna deorberate. Deorberate.
Deorberate.
Right? All right, I'm just playing around. Let's talk about the launch here. What's happening today? So we're launching Starlink. This is what I'm calling Starlink 9. There's a bit of confusion about the name here. I'm calling it Starlink 9. A lot of people call it Starlink 10. It's the 10th Starlink mission, but it is the 9th operational mission. We had one that was a 0.9 version 0.9 of the satellites that was launched a few months back, but then we moved to the version 1.0 satellites, the operational satellites. So this is the 9th launch of the version 1.0 satellites. So technically the big full name that everybody's been using is that this is Starlink V1.0-L9, meaning version 1.0 launch number 9. I just shortened that whole thing and call it Starlink 9. That's how we come up with the name. So we're looking pretty good today for actually launching. This has been scrubbed a whole bunch of times. This is like the 4th or the 5th time that they've tried to launch this. You remember they tried to launch this way back in June, and then they tried to do it in July when I was on vacation, and then they kept scrubbing it and pushing it further and further back, and now we're here we are, August, and we're actually hopefully going to have a launch. 70% go for weather here tonight, so things are looking pretty good. We're going to take a look here at weather in just a minute. So hello to everybody joining in. GVA Morning Show. Hey, thanks for the super chat. Says, what's up, Tori? We're hanging in there. It's late night. Everybody heard, let's see, everybody heard it. Heard my intro. That's good. I don't know why I can't hear it. I was sitting there. Everything's looks like it should be just fine, but sounds like you guys heard it, so good. All right, and this is also, we can actually, I just saw somebody said they were streaming live views of Launchpad 39A, which we can actually pull up here too. Some here, one of these buttons here can pull up Launchpad 39A while we're waiting, so you can get an idea of what we're looking at. There's Starlink. It is launching from Launchpad 39A here, or LC-39A. That's the historic launch pad that launched Apollo missions, Space Shuttle missions, launched Crew Dragon, Falcon Heavy, whole bunch. It's the big pad, big, huge one. Not to be confused with pad 40, which is a little bit further south, smaller pad. Launches Falcon 9s as well, but not Falcon Heavy, not Crew Dragon. That can only be done at 39A, which is where Crew Dragon is. You can actually see the crew access arm there on the right-hand side of that black fixed service structure tower there. Yeah, towards the top there, you can see the lightning rod all the way at the top, and then just a little bit lower on the right-hand side, right here. I forgot I have a mouse. I can point at things. Right here, the crew access arm. You can see it retracted back. Obviously, they don't need it for tonight. This is also a rideshare tonight. So there are normally in the past, there have been 60 Starlink satellites that would launch on a single Falcon 9. They can fit 60 of them in there, but this is actually a rideshare mission, so there are only 57 Starlink satellites in there, and then there are 2 additional satellites that they are 2 BlackSky satellites, which are Earth observation satellites that they're launching. Essentially, they got cameras and sensors and things like that, and they can do all kinds of analysis and data breakdown and detection and things like that for all kinds of different purposes, military purposes, civilian purposes, tracking purposes, but they're Earth observation satellites that will be in low Earth orbit, not geostationary orbit, low Earth orbit, along with the Starlink satellites themselves. Now, Starlink, for those that are unaware, I feel like just about everybody knows this at this point, but just in case you're not in the inner circle here, Starlink is a broadband internet satellite, communication satellites that is going to bring internet services to the whole world, no matter where you are. Middle of the ocean, internet. Out in the middle of the farm fields where you don't have good internet, Starlink will serve you. But they're not quite there yet, but they're building up towards it. So it's going to be worldwide internet coverage from low Earth orbit. Why low Earth orbits? Because you want low latency, fast speeds communicating up to the satellite and back. We have satellite internet now. It's in geostationary orbit, which is really far away. The latency time or the communication time is really long to get to geostationary orbit. And when I say really long, we're talking like relatively speaking for internet speeds. So it's the low Earth orbit satellites are going to be much faster, but the problem with low Earth orbit satellites is that they don't stay overhead for very long. They pass by. Geostationary satellites, they stay overhead and they don't go anywhere. So you can just put one satellite up and you can communicate with that. But low Earth orbit satellites, they pass by in about 5 minutes, and you got to have another satellite right behind it. So this constellation is going to have up to 12,000 satellites serving this internet connection, and then potentially up to 40,000 satellites serving even faster, super fast internet. But right now we're in that 12,000 phase that they're trying to build up to, but they're doing it 60 satellites at a time. Right now they're around 500 satellites, just under 500 satellites that they've already put up there. This will put them over 500 satellites after today's launch of the version 1.0 satellites. All right, I need to get the SpaceX stream up here. Where is my SpaceX stream? So we want to make sure we don't miss it. Keep it up there so that we can throw it up once they do go live. And while we wait, let's take a look at the weather. We'll look at weather and we'll look at flight path here. We can look at both. Oh, and hazards too. Let's look at hazards. Let's look at them all. Why don't we start with hazards, which will also kind of give you an idea of the flight path as well. So this is the hazards map here, which gives you an idea of the flight path. All right, my audio just is really bothering me today. This gives you an idea of the flight path. So here's 39A. Let me move this to the center so you can see it. Here's launch pad 39A, the historic launch pad 39A right there that you're launching from. Over here, Kennedy Space Center. That's down here's the visitor complex where you would actually go if you're a tourist and kind of hanging out here. But you can take bus tours around the whole area, but here's the main visitor complex. You have to go up this direction. Here's the main Kennedy Space Center here with the press sites, the big vehicle assembly building right here. And then if we move it on over this direction, this is the crawler way where the big crawlers from Space Shuttle would crawl down this area and bring the Space Shuttle right up to the pad. This is 39A right there. This is 39B that will launch the SLS rocket someday. Anyways, 39A down here. SpaceX's other pad is down this direction here. That's pad 40 right here. That's pad 40. There's also one in between. This is pad 41. That's the United Launch Alliance pad. That's where the Perseverance rover launched from just a few days ago. But here you go, pad 39A, and it's heading in a northeastern-ish direction here. So you can see we call this the hazards map because this is the aerial hazards where they publish NOTAMs, tell airplanes to get out of the way and not fly in this area. So these are all the NOTAMs and hazards. There's also Note Mars here as well, which is notice to mariners. Boaters, take note, stay out of this area. This is official operations. We don't need people hanging out in these areas. It's cause for a scrub. It's no good. It's been an issue lately, in case you didn't hear. Anyways, heading to the northeast, and we've got our drone ship out here. This is the drone ship, of course, I Still Love You, that's going to catch the first stage booster. And then we also have the 2 fairing catching ships, Go Miss Chief and Go Miss Tree, out there to catch the payload fairing halves. We don't know exactly if they're actually going to catch them or if they're going to fish them out of the water, but I presume they're going to catch them because they had an awesome double catch the last time that they are out for the Anasis 2 launch. So hopefully we get another double catch tonight as well. They're both out there, and they will be recovering the booster. This booster has flown 4 times already. It's going to fly a 5th time tonight. 5 times for this booster. It'll be crazy. It's also flown. This flew the Dragon Demo 1, Crew Dragon Demo 1 mission, the uncrewed Crew Dragon mission. This is the booster that flew it. And I believe this booster has also flown from, I think after tonight, will have flown from all 3 of SpaceX's pads, 39A, 40, and on the West Coast at Vandenberg, which we haven't heard too much about lately. But it will have flown from all 3 launch pads. So it's heading up there to the northeast. And then if we zoom out a little further, over here is the second stage re-entry area. Because the second stage, being good spacefaring citizens, they are going to dispose of their second stage and not leave it up there as just random debris. So after deployment, they will bring the second stage back. And this is roughly where it comes back in. It's a big track. But this is roughly the area where it will come back down and burn up and crash into the ocean because they cannot recover that second stage, the upper stage. Second stage looks like this. I remembered my 3D models finally. So we could talk about the Starlink, the deployment. We'll talk about that when we get to deployment. But you get the Starlink deployment does something like this. Like, yeah. Then after that, then they deorbitate the second stage. Deorbitate. That's right. I said it. They deorbitate. They're going to deorbitate. It's going to deorbitate. That's what I said. Okay. I love that I have new buttons now. All right, let's take... Just playing around. This is what happens when we have late night launches, is we just play around and we have some fun. Let's also look at weather. Weather at the top of the hour with Tori here. I do see your comments. We'll get to those in a minute, but I want to make sure that I can cover all these things here before SpaceX goes live, because they should be doing it in just a couple minutes. And we're going to talk, we got a long time to talk between launch and deployment. There's about an hour there. Actually, I think it's an hour and a half all the way to Starlink deployment. The BlackSky deployment's about an hour into it, and then Starlink is like an hour and a half. So, we're going to be here a while. Buckle up. Okay. Back to the weather with Tori. Coming up right now. Anyways, weather's looking good. 70% go here for today. Winds are pretty calm. Ground level winds here, what we're looking at, we're only at 2, 3, 4 miles per hour. Nothing at ground level winds, but usually the big question is upper level winds. They're not too terrible either. Only 20 miles per hour, 10, 12 miles per hour. Nothing too worrisome here for upper level winds. Nothing that I see that's concerning. Take a look at the radar for any precipitation. Love that Florida afternoon weathers and the showers and the clouds and all of it's usually a disaster, but that's why you get a lot of these late night launches in the summertime in Florida, because they're trying to avoid the weather. Nothing on the radar though, looking pretty good. And the clouds, you really can't, this particular map, you really can't tell too much for clouds because you're looking for thick clouds. Thick clouds is no good for launching. Can't launch through thick clouds, and you really can't tell in this kind of map visually whether they're going to be thick clouds or not. All right, one more thing, and then I'm going to look at your comments. We're going to look at the actual flight path, courtesy of Flight Club. Flightclub.io. You can type !path in the YouTube chat if you want to see it. yourself and play around with it. But here's the flight path here. We kind of already looked at this, but it's heading. Let's see if I can navigate this map. I always have trouble navigating the flight club. Let's see. We're gonna go this way, like that. Oh no, we're already turning sideways. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh. There. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Here it is. I like to get this. Yeah, this like 3-dimensional view, so you can kind of see what's happening. That was not too bad. We almost got it that time. So here you go. This kind of gives you an idea of the flight path. So you can see the launch right here down at Cape Canaveral. Heads up here, the red sections are the boost phases where it's in active propulsion. Then these bluish, greenish sections are coast phases. So you get launch. This is cutoff. Actually pretty early. First stage cutoff right here. Separation, second stage burn. Continues on up here. Then you get cut off of the second stage over in this area, and then you're in orbit. First stage, though, heads over this direction. You get a re-entry burn right here, and then you get a landing burn coming in down here. So you can kind of see roughly how that first stage is going to travel and land out in the ocean on the drone chip. All right, so that's what we're looking at. Let's go back to some live views while we wait for SpaceX to come up, and I'm going to check your comments, and we'll see what's happening with everybody in the late night hours. 1 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. What time is it where you are? Everybody's saying there's technical issues. All fine on my end. No, some people are saying it's fine. Some people are having technical issues. No, I think everything's fine. I think I'm still good. Let's see. Hope this doesn't scrub. I think we're in good shape. I haven't heard of any concerns yet. Haven't heard of any concerns, so I think we're in good shape here for today. It's been dead out here at Vandenberg. Rockets in the house, but no plans. At least there was last time I was there 3 months ago. Yeah, you're probably going to see fewer and fewer launches at Vandenberg because now with SAOCOM 1B, which is an awesome mission coming up. If you don't know about it, I have a video on my YouTube channel about SAOCOM 1B. SAOCOM 1B is going to be a historic launch from Cape Canaveral going into polar orbit. We don't normally launch polar orbits from Cape Canaveral. We stopped doing that years ago. Decades ago, 50 years ago, we stopped doing that, but we're going to start doing it again. We moved all our polar orbits out to Vandenberg, but now SpaceX is going to be the first company coming back. Let's see. Tori sounds like a news reporter. I know that's what I was going for. That was the idea. I'm glad you picked up on that. How the rockets bob and weave through 14,000 satellites. So far, space is really big. It's really, really big. It's surprisingly big. So there's actually a ton of room up there. Even though it sounds like there's a lot of satellites, 14,000. If you think about it, at any given point, I forget what the number is. I used to know this stat. We used to talk about this all the time. But I think at any given point, there's like 20,000 planes in the sky. Maybe it's 5,000 planes in the sky. What's the number? I forget what the number is. But either way, you don't look up in the sky and you're like, oh my goodness, it's so crowded up there. Look at all those planes. No, just a plane passes by every once in a while. It's the same idea with Starlink as well. Where Starlink becomes a problem, which is what irritates a lot of people, is that it screws up astrophotography and night sky observations because they do fly overhead. They do it pretty frequently, and if you're trying to take a long exposure photograph or you're trying to observe galaxies or planets or anything like that, you can get a big streak through your image, and that becomes really annoying for astrophotographers. So SpaceX is working on trying to lessen the reflectivity of the satellites and make them darker and not so reflective. They've actually started deploying on some of the satellites a sunshade to actually block the sun so it doesn't reflect off of the satellites. They've started experimenting with that a little bit. They are actively trying to work on that and make them a little darker. SpaceX is live. Are they? They're not live on mine.
57 Starlink satellites.
They are
instead
live.
Of the
Why
60
did? Hello. I had to refresh. Why didn't it show up? Okay. I don't know why it didn't show up for me.
we've traditionally launched in the past.
Here we go.
If for some reason we have a hold on
This is
the
a new
Falcon
host. Haven't seen her
we do have
before.
a backup opportunity tomorrow at 12:50 a.m. Eastern.
Oh,
We are
this is
now
not a
at
replay.
T-minus
Get
11
rid of that.
minutes and 43 seconds, and all systems are go for an on-time liftoff this morning. On your screen is Falcon 9, our two-stage liquid-fueled launch vehicle, getting ready for launch from pad 39A. Falcon 9 stands 229 feet tall, or slightly taller than a 21-story building. Today's flight will be the fifth for this booster, which made its debut on our Demonstration 1 mission in March of last year, reflew on RadarSat 3 months later, and then supported 2 Starlink missions in January and April
Well, and I got something
2020.
going on with my display.
This
I'm going to
flight
switch back
also
to that in a
marks
second.
the
Let me
10th
fix that real
reflight of
quick.
Falcon 9 just this year. The bottom 2/3 of the vehicle is the first stage. It's designed to be reflown 10 or more times with minimal refurbishment between flights.
There we go. That's
If
better.
you look closely, you can see the soot markings still on the vehicle from its previous 4 flights. The first stage has 9 Merlin engines that do the bulk of the work to get Falcon 9 off the ground and up to the thinner parts of the Earth's atmosphere, before separating from the second stage and making its way back down to Earth for landing. Today, we'll be attempting to recover this first stage for the 5th time on our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You, which is currently stationed in the Atlantic Ocean about
5 times.
330 nautical miles northeast of our Kennedy Space Center launch site. Now, above the first stage is the second stage, which has the single Merlin vacuum, or MVAC engine, which ignites after the first stage separates, propelling the second stage, along with the BlackSky and Starlink satellites, into a circular orbit above the Earth's surface. From there, the first of the BlackSky rideshare satellites will separate after about an hour into flight, followed by the second 5 minutes later. The 57 Starlink satellites will then deploy about 25 minutes after that at T plus 1 hour, 32 minutes, and 55 seconds. Now, that structure at the very top of the rocket is the 17-foot diameter payload fairing, which safely encloses the stack of 57 Starlink satellites and 2 BlackSky satellites. This fairing protects the satellites from aerothermal heating, aerodynamic loads, and contamination during ascent. Once we reach the vacuum of space, we'll jettison the fairing halves while second stage continues on to orbit. Now, as you can see, the fairing halves that we're using today are a brand new set, and we'll be attempting to recover them using our recovery ships Miss Tree and Miss Chief. 2 minutes before the fairings are set to land, the team will decide if conditions are good to make a safe catch attempt. Weather plays a big factor in the decision, as it can impact not only the sea states for the ships, but also the fairing's altitude, position, and speed, which impact how the fairing will fall back to Earth.
Good early morning. I'm John Isbrucker, Falcon 9 Principal Integration Engineer here at SpaceX. Now, Falcon 9 rolled out to the pad with the payload just over 24 hours ago. This is the 3rd time we've rolled out Falcon 9 to the pad, following launch attempts on 26 June and 8 July. Through all of this, Falcon 9 has been trouble-free, as the delays have been weather-related and payload-related. Now, the launch director held the go, no-go poll for propellant loading and launch at T-minus 38 minutes, about half an hour ago. Now, the 7 members of the launch team confirmed they were ready to proceed, and we began propellant loading at T-minus 35 minutes. Now, as a reminder, Falcon 9 is a bipropellant vehicle. That means it uses both a fuel and an oxidizer. Our fuel is rocket-grade kerosene. You'll hear us also refer to it as RP1. And our oxidizer is super-chilled liquid oxygen, also called LOX. Now, currently, the RP1 and LOX are nearly fully loaded on both stages. In fact, fuel is completely loaded. Liquid oxygen will continue to load until the last 2 minutes of the countdown. That will ensure that this densified liquid oxygen is as cold as we can keep it to get the expected performance out of the Merlin engines. We're also loading ultra-cold helium. Similar to the LOX, being very cold, it lets us get the maximum amount into storage vessels on both the first and second stages. Now, we use helium to pressurize Falcon 9's tanks and to help pull the RP1 and the LOX through the Merlin engine turbopumps. Now, to make sure engine startup goes well, we also perform what we call engine chill. We'll ought to hear that in the background in about 20 seconds at T-minus 7 minutes, we begin flowing a small amount of that super chilled LOX into the Merlin engine turbo pumps. This helps get them cold and avoid thermal shock to the system when we do the full flow of liquid oxygen through the turbo pumps in the last couple of seconds.
Stage 1 engine chill has started.
And there we've got the confirmation. Stage 1 engine chill has started. In your picture, there's a white structure next to the Falcon 9. That's the strong back portion of the transporter rector. This strong back portion provides the liquids, the gases, electrical connections to the second stage, as well as an air conditioning line up to the payload fairing. Now, in about 2 minutes, that strong back will retract slightly from the rocket, about 2 degrees. Then at T0, hydraulics will pull the strong back farther away from the Falcon 9 as it lifts off. Now on the weather front, the good news is weather's cooperating. We were watching clouds to the west, but the probability of good weather's been increasing, and we should stay go for the last 6 minutes of the countdown. Also, the upper altitude winds are fairly calm for when this vehicle goes supersonic. So right now, the vehicle payloads and range are go for an on-time liftoff just over 6 minutes from now.
For those of you who don't know much about the Starlink program, our mission is to bring high-speed, low-latency internet to people all over Earth. Some of the most exciting opportunities for Starlink are rural or remote locations where traditional fiber or cable just isn't practical. On our June 7th mission, we launched the first Starlink satellite with a deployable visor to block sunlight from hitting the brightest spots of the spacecraft. This demo satellite, also known as VisorSat, is just one of the many actions SpaceX has taken in collaboration with leading astronomical groups to mitigate the effects of satellite reflectivity. We're still waiting for the satellite to reach its operational orbit. However, we're excited to report that all 57 of the satellites on today's mission do have sun visors, and all future satellites will be outfitted with these visors as well.
Now they got visors on all of them.
It'll take a bit more time for our VisorSats to reach their operational orbit, and at that point, we'll see the full results of this effort. Now today we also wanted to share a few updates on our rideshare program. SpaceX has launched some notable rideshare missions previously, including spaceflight's SSOA mission in December of 2018 and the New Centaur Satu mission in February of 2019 that had a lunar lander on board. Today's Starlink mission marks the second official mission under SpaceX's SmallSat rideshare program, which gives small satellites flexible access to what is now the most flown operational rocket in the United States, Falcon 9. We have over 100 spacecraft slated to fly our rideshare missions, and that number will continue to grow under our multi-launch agreement with today's customer, Spaceflight. Under this agreement, Spaceflight reserves capacity to launch payloads on several SpaceX launches through the end of 2021, and it allows Spaceflight to package multiple payloads onto a single port to reduce costs for their end customer. We have a long working history with Spaceflight and look forward to continuing this partnership into the future.
We're coming up on 4 minutes from liftoff. Falcon 9 moving into the final stages of the countdown. Getting ready for the strong back to retract there on your screen. The clamp arms around stage 2 are opening up. Momentarily, we will see the strong back move away about 2 degrees from the rocket. Now, first and second stages are both nearly fully loaded. We've got almost 1 million pounds of kerosene and liquid oxygen on board. Fuel's fully loaded on stage 1 and stage 2. And we are finishing liquid oxygen loading in the last 2 minutes of the countdown. It's that super chilled liquid oxygen that's creating those white clouds that you can see around the Falcon 9 as the bleed gaseous oxygen mixes with that warm, humid Florida air, and that gives you the condensation clouds that you see. Now coming up at T-minus 60 seconds, you'll hear the call out of startup. That means the rocket's flight computers have taken over the Falcon 9 commands for the last minute of the countdown. Inside of two seconds, we light the Merlin 1D engines. We will mix T-Tab, which is our ignition fluid, with liquid oxygen. That begins combustion. We then allow the fuel into the thrust chamber, and the engines come up to power for liftoff at T0. Inside of 3 minutes, we're closing out the liquid oxygen loading on the first stage. Meanwhile, the Starlink and BlackSky payloads continue to be healthy. The Falcon 9 team's tracking no issues on the rocket, the weather's looking good, and the range is green for launch.
All good news. I think we got a launch in store here tonight.
A moment ago, we heard the call out that stage 1 LOX load was complete. Transporter rector has reclined. Next major event will be stage 2 liquid oxygen loading completion.
Who's got their coffee loading in? Is coffee loading complete? Give me a go, no go in the chat. Sounds like they've got some pad mics now at 39A. Usually pad 40 is where they get the really nice pad mics, but we're hearing a lot of audio. I know you're not because I'm talking over it right now, but I'll shut up at some point and we'll listen into those pad mics. But a lot of condensation on the rocket. That's perfectly normal. That's
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
We've got stage 2 liquid oxygen loading complete.
We got
That
one
means
big
all
vent,
propellants-
one big huge vent coming up here at about 1:30.
The chilling announcement was telling us that we've had enough time with the liquid oxygen running through the Merlin 1D turbo pumps
Here
to
it
get
comes.
them down to the necessary temperatures to go
Ground
into the
gas filter
ignition
started.
sequence. Currently, you can see a large white cloud coming off of the strongback. That's normal. At this stage, we are now having fully loaded all the propellants. We're bleeding back the liquid oxygen in the fuel out of the system so that we're getting a little bit of venting overboard, and that gives you the large white plume, again, as that warm, humid Florida air mixes with the cold gaseous oxygen to give you the clouds.
Here we go. We're coming up on it now.
Falcon 9 is in startup.
There's startup. We're going to get a
All
go
up.
from the launch
Falcon
director.
9's in startup. Flight computers are now running
Stage 2
the Falcon 9.
for flight.
We're pressurizing the stages for flight, and we're waiting for the final go.
LD, go for launch.
There it is.
With that, the SpaceX launch director has confirmed we're go for launch. So as we come up on T-minus 30 seconds, let's listen to the final countdown and watch as Falcon 9 takes our Starlink satellites and
T-minus
BlackSky
30
satellites to orbit.
I'm going to remind you guys, hit that like button right here now. Right? This is what I do. All right. I'll shut up. Let's watch.
Stage 1 tanks pressing for flight.
T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. And liftoff.
M1D propulsion is nominal.
She's away. Beautiful night launch.
T plus 40 seconds since the launch of Falcon 9. Propulsion is confirmed. Merlin's look nominal. Power and telemetry are confirmed nominal from the avionics engineer. We're throttling down right now on the Merlin 1D engines. Preparing for supersonic and max Q.
Mach 1.
Got the call out for Mach 1. We have throttled the Merlins back up to full power. Next event will be maximum dynamic pressure. And there we are. We're going through the thickest portion of the atmosphere at the highest speeds. Now as we continue to accelerate Falcon 9, the air density gets thinner and the loads on the vehicle decrease. A minute 30 seconds, trajectory continues to look good.
You also see that plume on the rocket start to fan out the higher it gets in the atmosphere.
Back dechill.
That dechill indicates we're now beginning to bleed a little bit of liquid oxygen through the upper stage engine turbo pump to get it ready for ignition, coming up in just about 40 seconds from now. Nice view from the ground camera looking up the long plume coming out of the 9 Merlin 1D engines. Now, major event coming up will be main engine cutoff coming up at just after 2.5 minutes, called MECO. We shut off all the 9 engines. We'll separate the first stage from the second stage, and we will ignite the second stage engine called SES-1, the second stage engine start number 1.
This should be MECO right here. Main engine cutoff. Coming up.
Beginning to throttle down.
There's MECO.
MECO.
Separation. Are we going to get video? There it is. Beautiful. You see the little green flash of
And
T-Temp.
we've got successful MVAC full power ignition. The view on the right shows the MVAC engine, the second stage now taking over, carrying the Starlink and BlackSky satellites to orbit. On the left screen, the first stage is continuing without power to coast to apogee, and you can see the large titanium grid fins beginning to open with the lights of the United States in the background as we slowly head up the eastern coast of America. Now, next coming up will be fairing separation. There's a view of the fairing.
There it goes.
And we confirm fairing separation.
Seemed a little bit early, actually, on my according
So
to
the
my
Falcon
time.
9 second stage continues at full power, carrying the Starlink and BlackSky satellites to the first of 2 orbits. The first stage is continuing to coast to apogee, and then it will begin to fall back to Earth, and eventually 2 burns to land on the drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. The trajectory right now continues to look right down the middle. Everything's looking good on Falcon 9. So as we come up on 4 minutes, we will remind you that we are attempting to catch and recover both fairing halves, now that they've separated, on our recovery vessels Ms. Tree and Ms. Chief. If we make a successful catch, we'll try to bring you these views live. Otherwise, check our social media accounts for updates. Right now, 4 minutes, 20 seconds of the mission. All is going well.
Yeah, so typically if they catch it,
While
they'll show it
Stage
to
2
us.
is doing its job there on the
If they don't catch it, they won't show it to us.
to Earth.
But that happens at about 45 minutes, T plus 45 minutes. So we've got a long time before the fairings come back.
A series of 2 burns. The first burn is the entry burn, where 3 of the 9 M1D engines will light up and slow the stage down as it re-enters the upper part of the Earth's atmosphere. The second burn is the landing burn, and this is a single engine burn that brings the vehicle speed down rapidly in order to land on the drone ship. You can see on your screen that the second stage MVAC is still glowing and in the middle of its burn there, carrying our satellites to orbit. So stage 1 entry burn is going to start in just over a minute here at T plus 6 minutes and 21 seconds. Stage 1 is currently navigating home to Earth using both its grid fins, and that small spurt of light that you saw was a nitrogen burst from the attitude control system, which is nitrogen gas that helps to orient and guide the first stage as it heads home.
Couple people, I see David on Facebook asked why it takes
There
so
are
long
4 grid
for the
fins
fairings to come back. The fairings they get dragged down by the atmosphere quite a bit. They're a really huge, awkward kind of shape. A lot of atmospheric drag when they come back in slows them way down, and then they actually come in under parachute. So that's why it takes 45 minutes to come back, is just because they slow down so much from the atmosphere, and then coming down under parachute is nice and gentle. That's actually part of that's a really slow process, coming down under parachute, with the idea that they can get the boat underneath it, steer the parachute, steer the boat, and hopefully they both come together at the same spot.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
Here's our entry burn.
Heard confirmation of the stage 1 entry burn startup. You can see those backlit grid fins with those 3 engines burning there. Again, this burn lasts 20 seconds.
This is slowing the first stage down before it re-enters the atmosphere, so it doesn't break up as it enters the atmosphere.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
We've had confirmation of successful stage 1 entry burn, and we're about a minute away from our landing burn. The landing burn will start at T plus 8 minutes, and it is also about 20 seconds long. The landing burn should bring us to our drone ship. Of course, I still love you in the Atlantic Ocean.
There's the drone ship there. So we're coming up on, there's going to be a bunch of quick
we have
activities in about a
briefly lost
minute.
that first-
You're going to have SECO, single engine cutoff, or second engine cutoff. Single engine cutoff is, I think, what their acronym is actually for. But then you'll have booster landing burn startup, booster landing. All that happens within just a couple of seconds, just over the 8-minute mark. So that's coming up here shortly. Hopefully we get clear video on the drone ship, but don't be surprised if it cuts out. That's very common.
We're about 10 seconds from landing burn start.
That video feed on the drone ship can cut out because the rocket exhaust will shake the video antenna around, and it's a directional antenna, so it has to be locked on the satellite that it's providing the video feed to, and if it shakes around,
One landing burn.
it loses that video feed.
The call out for
So
the
it-
start of stage 1 landing burn.
So the landing stops. Look
You
at
see
the glow in the
clouds
sky.
Sort of lighting up there.
You can see the glow in the sky already. Bring it home. 5th time.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
Land it. Come on. Yes.
Wow.
Clean video,
Look
too.
at that stage 1 sitting on our drone ship. Of course, I still love you. That was a beautiful view of the stage 1 as it came down there, lighting the clouds up. And in just about 10 seconds here, we'll have second engine cut off there right on your screen.
5th time that booster has landed. 5th time. That's crazy. It's never gets old. 5 times they've landed that booster.
We've had confirmation of
Expecting loss of signal, Cape.
second engine cutoff, and we're waiting for confirmation of good orbit out of this first burn here.
So now we have Seco. The second stage is...
Nominal parking orbit insertion.
Here we go, nominal
We're in a nominal
insertion.
orbit, and now we're about to enter a coast phase. So we're going to take a quick break, but we're going to leave you with an animation that shows you where we are in the coast. We'll be back at about T plus 46 minutes and 30 seconds for a second stage relight.
So that's it. Well, not that's it, but they have they've put it in parking orbit. Now they have to deploy the satellites. Now's the waiting game. So the launch has happened. We're gonna go back and replay that here in just a minute. The launch has happened. They're in parking orbit. There's actually another second stage burn to adjust their orbit a little bit. Oh, do I have? Maybe not. Look at me, I have a NASA's deployment. What happened there? I swear I updated that. A NASA's is not being deployed. Get that NASA's deployment out of here. Am I on the wrong? Huh, I'm on the wrong one. Here. You go like this. There we go. Now it's fixed. Chose the wrong event. Had the NASA's event, but it was the same sequence of events until we get to deployment here. So there we go. Fix that. So we do have another relight coming up of the second stage. Seco 2 or second stage restart coming up at about 47 minutes. Seco 2 will be just a few seconds after that. Then we start the deployment of the BlackSky satellites. And then about 45 minutes after that will be Starlink deployment. All right, so let's go. Let me jump back and grab a couple of these questions here that I saw. If I missed any, feel free to throw it back in again. Carrie says, I remember one of the early ones where all we saw was a flash of water and steam. Yeah, I think that was one of the anomaly landings that actually didn't land. It landed in the water. You're talking about off on the right side. That was one that missed the drone ship. This was good. Clean video the whole way through. We're gonna have to replay that here in just a minute. And this is the 5th time that booster has landed, and this is the I believe it's the 2nd time we've had a 5th landing. Am I right on that? We've not had one go to 6 landings yet, but we've had 2 hit 5 landings. 2 boosters. At some point, we're going to have to start, all these boosters have numbers. So this is booster 1051. They're just like serial numbers that's basically counting up. But at some point, if they're reusing them so often, we ought to start giving them legit names. Like instead of calling them 1051, we're going to have to name it like they named the Endeavour Crew Dragon capsule. We're going to have to start naming these boosters because they're they're around forever. I mean, originally they just numbered them because it was like, well, why are we giving it a name? We're going to launch it, it's going to be destroyed, and we're going to move on to the next one. But now we're launching them 4 or 5, maybe 6 times at some point. We got to start naming these. They must have fixed the caterpillar lobster issue then. Well, the space caterpillar is actually a normal thing that we talk about. The space caterpillar is just liquid oxygen venting out of the side. The space lobster is usually responsible for some kind of mischief on a flight, usually.
Space lobster ate the T-Teb. That's the answer.
That was really loud. Thanks, Tim Dodd. Space lobster ate the T-Teb. Will Starship first stage land the same way? Will they need a bigger ship? Starship first stage is general. Well, they probably will need a bigger ship. I thought you were talking about the second stage for a minute. First stage, yeah, will land same kind of way, but they're likely going to need something bigger. And I think they've talked about having landing pads, like bigger landing pads. But we don't know what they're going to do for drone ship landings. I don't think they're going to... Maybe they could land them on the same drone ships, but it's going to have 39 Raptor engines on it, or 31 Raptor engines on it. That's a lot of force on that drone ship. But we're not at that point yet, but we'll see. We'll have to see what they do for that. Again, if you get a chance, why the late launch? Is it a timing for the spread of satellites? Yeah, so there's kind of 2 things at play here. One is trying to hit the right orbit. That's the biggest thing. So you're trying to hit a very precise orbit, and the Earth is spinning, so you only have the chance to hit that orbit once as the Earth spins underneath the orbit. So you're trying to time the orbit. Here's time for Tori's hand diagrams. How do we do this? If you're over here and you're trying to launch in this orbit, you gotta wait until it gets over here and then you can launch. This is the Earth, in case you didn't figure that out. That's the best I got. I need what am I doing? I have this guy, although he green screens out. But the Earth spins like this. You're trying to hit this orbit. But if you're over here, you can't launch because you can't go up here and then make a right turn. So you have to wait until the Earth spins and then launch. That's the idea. And it's not a polar orbit. It's actually it's an inclined orbit, meaning you're going northeast across Earthy's face there. I don't know why I didn't just use Earthy in the first place. Okay. What's on my shirt? Oh, and I said there were 2 things. The second thing, particularly, you see a lot of night launches in Florida, and a lot of that has to do with weather as well. If they have 2 launch opportunities, and there's one that's in the mid-afternoon in the summertime, and there's one that's in the middle of the night in the summertime, a lot of times they'll go with the middle of the night one because you have less weather, less thunderstorms and precipitation and things like that. Florida afternoon thunderstorms can be pretty treacherous, so a lot of times they'll go with an overnight launch, especially in the summertime. How many times can they reuse the booster? So the booster is designed to be reused, in theory, up to 100 times. And every 10 reuses, it's supposed to go through major refurbishment. So basically, every launch, you'd have minor refurbishments in between launches. In theory, the Block 5 booster is supposed to be able to launch within 24 hours of landing if it does a return to launch site landing, but we've never seen that happen before. So that's why I say in theory, it's supposed to be able to turn around in 24 hours. We don't have a lot of return to launch site launches. Usually those launches are just for cargo Dragon missions to the International Space Station. We don't see them very often on satellite launches. So it would have, in order to turn around in 24 hours, it would have to be a return to launch site that way it's there at the Cape, and then they could turn around within 24 hours. We haven't seen anywhere close to that yet. I mean, I think we're talking 60-ish days is the fastest a booster has been turned around. So we haven't even come close to the 24-hour mark yet. But a lot of that too is like landing out here on the drone ship. It'll take that drone ship a couple of days to get back to Cape Canaveral. So just that alone eliminates the 24-hour bit. But anyways, in between each booster landing, there is minor refurbishment that goes on. But then there's supposed to be major refurbishment after 10 launches. We haven't even gotten to that point yet. We've completed 5. We haven't done a booster that has done 6 launches yet. So we're still waiting on that milestone. But it's supposed to be able to get up to 10, then have a major refurbishment, and then you're supposed to be able to get 10 of those for a total of 100 launches. That's the theory. We've gotten nowhere close to that. Did you hear they found India's Chandrayaan-2 mission, the Vikram lander? The rover actually made it to the moon. I have not heard this. I'll have to look. Somebody have to send that or post it in the Discord so I can look at this. How many booster losses since going operate? Booster launch losses? It says bull losses. SpaceX doesn't have any bulls. Maybe at the McGregor test facility. A lot of cows out there. Booster loss. I don't know the exact numbers of booster. I guess booster losses. I'm assuming you mean like unsuccessful landings, because there's only ever been one like in-flight loss for SpaceX, which was CRS-7. Then we had the AMOS-6 mission, which was a launch pad loss before it even launched. So is it spreading out the satellites to be in a certain orbit? Yes, they are hitting. They're hitting a very specific orbit. I wonder. Let's see if I can pull this up. I might be able to pull this up here. Give me a second. I wasn't prepared with this, but let me see if I can find it, and I'll show it to you. Is this what I'm looking for? No. Oh. That's not quite what I'm looking for. Oh, I can't find it. If anybody knows where the current... I was looking for the current Starlink animation map. I don't have it. But it's kind of cool because it shows like where all the Starlink satellites are, and you can see how it's a very carefully orchestrated like dance that they put them all in, because they're all carefully orchestrated to be perfectly spaced out and in perfectly spaced orbits. It was very, very precise. And it has, this is why I brought my 3D model. See my 3D model here? This is the second stage of the Falcon 9 rocket. You'd have the satellites up on top here. And when they deploy the satellites, there's generally 2 ways that they would do that. In most satellite launches, put my Crew Dragon on top of there. I don't have a like satellites put on, so we'll just do Crew Dragon. In most satellite launches, when they want to deploy the payload, they have a pusher system, a spring pusher system, and so they get to the proper orbit, and then they use just a little tiny spring push to separate the payload and put the satellites in orbit. And eventually they get enough distance, this guy will flip around, do another burn, and head back into the atmosphere. And sometimes it won't do that. Sometimes it'll go out in a disposal burn. But for Starlink, because there are so many satellites, usually 60 satellites, there's only 57 on this one because we got a rideshare, but there's so many satellites that if you had a spring pusher system for all of those, you'd have way too much weight, way too much space taken up. It's too much. So instead, they're all strapped together, and then they release one pin that holds all of them in. They just release the pin, and then they let them go. But the tricky thing is, they spin the second stage like this. Not quite this fast, but they spin it really slowly, like this. And when they release that pin, the satellites that are on the outside of that spin there are actually traveling a little faster than the satellites that are on the inside, because the satellites on the outside are covering more of a distance in the same amount of time that the satellites on the inside are covering a shorter distance. So these are going a little bit faster. So they spin it like this. Let's see if I can do this without breaking it. They spin it, and then they just let it go, and then they kind of fling off, and they all separate themselves. It's like fanning out a deck of cards is the way that Elon describes it. It's actually kind of a cool process, but you don't really get to see that spinning motion because all the cameras are on the second stage itself. So the only time you can see that spinning motion, you got to keep an eye on like look for the moon or the Earth itself, or some sort of fixed point out in space, because that'll help you see that spin happening. Sometimes we see it, sometimes we don't, but yeah, it gets a very slow spin like this, and then eventually just flings them out. Wow! There, I finally got to use my 3D models. I've had that printed forever, just for that demonstration, for a Starlink demonstration. First time I've actually remembered to bring it with me. Chusicon says Booster 1049 might make it to six launches later this month for Starlink 10. There you go. So that's our first candidate for 6 launches. Each launch is to disperse the satellites in a spread. Yeah, each launch of 60 disperses it in a particular orbital line around the planet. So all 60 of them, they launch in one spot, and then they all spread out and go around the planet gradually. But they are initially they'll all be together. One of the cool things, it'll be interesting if this is going to happen for this launch. So they said this launch they'll all have sunshades. So in the past, they had like 1 or 2 satellites that had sunshades on them to block the sun from reflecting off the shiny bits of the satellites, which made the Starlink satellites really, really easy to see. If you're in the YouTube chat, you can type !Starlink. It'll give you a link to the Starlink map, how you can find the satellites and see them flying overhead. Be interesting to see if these are really visible. Usually the Starlink satellites are really, really visible. You can see them with the naked eye, and it looks like just a big line of satellites just flying overhead, which is really cool to see. So if you type !Starlink in the YouTube chat, it'll give you a link to Heavens Above or the Starlink website that will help you track them and find out when they're going to be flying overhead for you. But I don't know how visible they're going to be now, because all of them will have sunshades. So that'll be the question. How visible is this set actually going to be? Will you please replay the launch? Yeah, I'm going to replay that in just a second here. Just want to get through some of these questions. When is Crew Dragon 1 happening? You're talking about the Crew 1 mission. Right now it's slated for, that's the next launch with 4 astronauts. That's slated for no earlier than September 27th. Hey, Charles. Thanks for the super sticker. Appreciate your support there. Thanks so much. Sticker to chip in for more 3D model moments. No, I need bigger 3D models so I can show the Crew Dragon. My Crew Dragon is so tiny. I need a bigger one. So I'll have the bigger one ready for Crew 1, September 27th. All right. So let's replay the launch here while we're waiting, because we still got 20 minutes until they do the next burn, and then we still got an hour to go before Starlinks are deployed. So let's back it up. Right about here-ish. Gotta go a little further than that. All right, let's get our replay text up there. Actually, let's get rid of the events list, and we'll listen in on the replay.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. And liftoff.
M1D propulsion is nominal.
Plus 40 seconds since the launch of Falcon 9. Propulsion is confirmed. Merlin's look nominal. Power and telemetry are confirmed nominal from the avionics engineer. With throttling down right now on the Merlin 1D engines. Preparing for supersonic and max Q.
Mach 1.
Got the call out for Mach 1. We have throttled the Merlins back up to full power. Next event will be maximum dynamic pressure. And there we are. We're going through the thickest portion of the atmosphere at the highest speeds. Now as we continue to accelerate Falcon 9, the air density gets thinner and the loads on the vehicle decrease. A minute 30 seconds, trajectory continues to look good.
Back dechill.
Back dechill indicates we're now beginning to bleed a little bit of liquid oxygen through the upper stage engine turbo pump to get it ready for ignition, coming up in just about 40 seconds from now. Nice view from the ground camera looking up the long plume coming out of the 9 Merlin 1D engines. Now, major event coming up will be main engine cutoff coming up at just after 2.5 minutes, called MECO. We shut off all the 9 engines. We'll separate the first stage from the second stage, and we will ignite the second stage engine called SES-1, the second stage engine start number 1.
Coming up on separation here on the replay.
Beginning to throttle down.
MECO.
Stage separation confirmed.
There's our separation. That's one of my favorite things right there.
And we've
I feel like that's underappreciated. I'm going to back this up here for just a second. I know a lot of people hear me talk about this. Why are my arrow keys not working? So, a couple things you'll see just as the second engine starts up. You can actually see liquid oxygen, the engine pre-chill there. You can see some of the liquid oxygen flowing through ahead of time right there as they start to flow fuel and super cold propellant through there. Then you also see the green flash of the T-Teb right there. That's the ignition, the pyrophoric ignition chemicals that are igniting the engine there. They also use that on the first stage, so you always see that green flash. I love seeing that. And then you'll see the stiffener ring fall off the second stage right there. This little guy, that's called the stiffener ring. Just keeps the engine bell in shape there, and that always falls off. So a couple of cool things to look for every time you're watching one of these replays. The green flash and a stiffener ring.
And we've got successful MVAC full power ignition. The view on the right shows the MVAC engine, the second stage now taking over, carrying the Starlink and BlackSky satellites to orbit. On the left screen, the first stage is continuing without power to coast to apogee, and you can see the large titanium grid fins beginning to open with the lights of the United States in the background as we slowly head up the eastern coast of America. Now, next coming up will be fairing separation. There's a view of the fairing. And we confirm fairing separation. So the Falcon 9 second stage continues at full power, carrying the Starlink and BlackSky satellites to the first of 2 orbits. The first stage is continuing to coast to apogee, and then it will begin to fall back to Earth, and eventually 2 burns to land on the drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. The trajectory right now continues to look right down the middle. Everything's looking good on Falcon 9. So as we come up on 4 minutes, we will remind you that we are attempting to catch and recover both ferrying halves now that they've separated on our recovery vessels Ms. Tree and Ms. Chief. If we make a successful catch, we'll try to bring you these views live. Otherwise, check our social media accounts for updates. Right now, 4 minutes, 20 seconds of the mission. All is going well.
While Stage 2 is doing its job there on the right, Stage 1 is headed back home to Earth. Can't quite see it on the video on the left, but it is doing that, and it will do this by executing a series of 2 burns. The first burn is the entry burn, where 3 of the 9 M1D engines will light up and slow the stage down as it re-enters the upper part of the Earth's atmosphere. The second burn is the landing burn, and this is a single engine burn that brings the vehicle speed down rapidly in order to land on the drone ship. You can see on your screen that the second stage MVAC is still glowing and in the middle of its burn there, carrying our satellites to orbit. So Stage 1 entry burn is going to start in just over a minute here at T plus 6 minutes and 21 seconds. Stage 1 is currently navigating home to Earth using both its grid fins, and that small spurt of light that you saw was a nitrogen burst from the attitude control system, which is nitrogen gas that helps to orient and guide the first stage as it heads home.
Bradley wants to know, can I recommend a ship tracking site? I use marinetraffic.com for tracking ships. There is another one out there. I can't remember what it's called, but the one I use is marinetraffic.com for tracking the SpaceX fleet, the SpaceX Navy.
Just about 20 seconds here, we will hear the call out for the start of the Stage 1 entry burn.
Vessel Finder, that's the other one. Fritz 46, thanks for that.
That will slow the first stage down as it enters the upper parts of the Earth's atmosphere.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
Heard confirmation of the Stage 1 entry burn startup. You can see those backlit grid fins with those 3 engines burning there. Again, this burn lasts 20 seconds.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
We've had confirmation of successful Stage 1 entry burn, and we're about a minute away from our landing burn. The landing burn will start at T plus 8 minutes, and it is also about 20 seconds long.
So we're
The
coming up.
landing burn should bring us to our drone ship. Of course, I still love you in the Atlantic Ocean.
Here's that beautiful.
We have briefly lost that first stage view, but we should get it back when we get closer to the drone ship.
There's that beautiful
About
glow in
30
the
seconds
sky
out
you'll
from the
see when
Stage
they
1 landing burn. Again, this is a
they actually
single
ignite the
engine burn.
engines.
It's the engine right in the middle.
Wait
Stage
for that
1
glow.
is transonic right now.
Good video feed too, all the way down. As soon as that landing burn starts, just lights up the night sky, which is pretty awesome. It's gotta be
About
pretty cool to
10
see
seconds from
if you're out there with
landing
part of
burn
the some of the support ships.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Heard the call out for the start of Stage 1 landing burn.
There you go. You can see it lighting up the sky now.
You
Look
see
at the clouds light up.
clouds sort of lighting up there.
Start internal guidance.
A little
Stage 1
shaky.
landing leg deploy.
A little shaky, but we got clean video all the way in, which is awesome. Love it. Oh,
Wow.
landed her
Look at that
5
stage
times.
one sitting on our drone trip. Of course, I will still love you. That was a beautiful view.
All right.
Stage one as it came down.
So now that we got to landing here, that's pretty much as far as we've gotten so far in our mission here. They did get to stage 2 cutoff. Let's see if we can pull up the live Flight Club map. See if we can find our... There we go. Here's the live Flight Club map. Right here, courtesy of flightclub.io. And you can get kind of a live picture. Let's see, can I manage to navigate the map? It's always so hard for me. Here we go. This is where stage 2 is right now. Flightclub.io has the live map. We'll get the stage 2 stats up here on the left-hand side, so you can see the altitude, how far downrange it is, the current velocity. Acceleration's at 0G. It's weightless. Not under acceleration. It's at constant speed. So that would be normal because the engines aren't running. And let's see. Meanwhile, why don't I get this back to live? And I'll switch it over to this screen so that I can see it. SpaceX is also kind of providing a similar view, but this is just a little bit... I like this one because I can manipulate this one and move it around. You can kind of zoom out of it and see exactly where we are. Just off the southwest coast of India here. Just passed over the Middle East. All right, let's go back to SpaceX's because they're going to be coming back in about 5 minutes or so. So I want to see when they come back. We'll pull our events list up here next. And actually also in about 5 minutes is when that fairing catch, that payload fairing catch would take place. So hopefully we can get some news on the payload fairing catch and maybe even some video. That would be pretty awesome if they could show us some video. Probably not video of the actual catch itself. Maybe they show it, but usually they'll just show like video after the fact, like of the fairings in the net. Which application is that? Where can you find the right place? The Starlink. It's like Google Earth. So the application that I was just using is called Flight Club. It's flightclub.io. And this is in the Facebook chat. So let me throw it in the face. I'll throw you a link in the Facebook chat so you have that. Flightclub.io. In the YouTube chat, you can type !path. You can also, those commands work in Twitch as well. And the other, what was the other question you asked me? Oh, where you can find Starlink. In the YouTube chat, you can type !Starlink, which I'm actually going to type in myself so that I can get a copy of the link, so I can copy and paste it. And then I'll send that to the Facebook chat as well, so that you can find your Starlink satellites and when they might pass overhead. There we go. A couple of people talking about tracking the vessels. You can use Vessel Finder or marinetraffic.com to track those, and it is important to note that the drone ship itself does not have tracking. It's the support ships around it, the tug usually, or if you're looking for, there's like Ghost, they have a whole bunch of ships. You've got Go Miss Chief, Go Miss Tree, those are the payload fairing recoveries. Usually the tug, which would be like the tug, what are the tug names? Hawk is one of them. I don't remember. can't remember the other names, but I don't know which one is out right now, but you have to find the tug that's pulling the drone ship if you're going to track it on marine traffic or vessel finder. Do you need a subscription to use Flight Club? So Flight Club has a free version, but they also have a paid version as well for Patreon supporters. So if you support them on Patreon, you can get access to more functionality. They've actually got a lot of really cool stuff on there, especially for like photographers and planning out shots. If you're in Florida or you're going to watch a launch, they can help you plan out like exactly where to stand and where, you know, what it's going to look like. That Flight Club software is amazing. Trying to imagine what would happen if we use nuclear power on spaceships. I think we would go very fast. The trouble you have with nuclear power, which is why we don't do a ton of it, is that it ups the danger factor quite a bit to use nuclear power. So you start using nuclear power, you also have to be concerned about what happens if the rocket goes kaboom in the atmosphere. Now all of a sudden you got all this nuclear material in the atmosphere. Don't really want that. That's no good. So that's the trouble with flying nuclear. We do it in small bursts, like the Perseverance rover has nuclear power on board, but it's relatively small. But that was a risk that they took, so they're flying that to Mars. But if you're trying to go like all nuclear power for everything, it just ups the danger factor. In case your rocket goes kablamo.
Space Lobster ate the T-Teb. That's the answer.
That's the answer. Tori, can you address what the BlackSky satellites are? What I think they are? So the BlackSky satellites are Earth imaging satellites. They're essentially a private company that provides satellite imagery. You can ask them to detect certain things, detect, I don't know, boats or buildings or stuff like that. You can ask them to monitor a certain area for changes. You can ask them to just get scientific pictures of a certain area. You could get it all over the place, all over the map. So it's just satellite imagery that they offer service for. They have, what do they have? 4 up there right now, and I think they're trying to get, I want to say they're trying to get to like 20 of them up there by the end of 2021. Then eventually they want to have 60 of them up there, but I think they only have 4 right now. And after this, it'd put them up to 6. I might, don't quote me on those numbers. I might be wrong on it, but I think it's pretty close to that. Oh, SpaceX is back.
So Starlink 9, we had an on-time liftoff from pad 39A and a beautiful landing on our drone ship, Of Course I Still Love You. We are now awaiting the second relight of our second stage engine at T plus 47 minutes and 23 seconds. And this is the shortest burn that we will do, lasting only about 3 seconds. We also just got an update on our fairing halves. We did not manage to catch them this time, but we'll keep trying.
Oh, man. So they did not catch the payload fairings. Sounds like they didn't catch either of them.
We're just about 10 seconds out from second engine startup 2, and this is the shortest burn that we'll do. It is the second of 2 burns, and it will put us in the proper orbits to deploy the BlackSky satellites and Starlink satellites.
A lot of background sound at SpaceX there. So this is a super short burn. It's like 3 seconds. Startup. Shut down. Right there. That's it.
Wow, you can see a beautiful video of that second stage as it successfully started up and shut down, lasting only about 3 seconds there. There's some beautiful plumes coming off.
Insertion.
You heard the call out. We have nominal orbital insertion, and now that we are in a good orbit, we'll be coasting again for the next 15 minutes or so, and we'll be back at about T+1 hour for the first of 2 payload deploys of the BlackSky satellites for our rideshare customer. See you in a bit.
There we go. All right, they got their music. I'm going to turn my music on, because I don't know what their music is, so. All right, so yeah, nice quick little burn there. Nothing big. 3-second burn there for just to get them into the proper orbit that they need to be for deployment of all those satellites. This is going to be both the BlackSky satellites, and then later on there's not another burn for Starlink deployment. So these are going into similar orbits, but they are spaced out by about 30 minutes in their deployment. So remember, this is a rideshare mission, and you've got the 2 BlackSky satellites, Global 7 and Global 8, that are going to be deployed first. That's the rideshare. They paid a whole lot less to fly on this than they would to fly on their own dedicated mission, but they also don't have a lot of control over the orbit. So they pretty much have to go to the orbit that SpaceX is going to bring them to. And if that works for them, great. And obviously in this case it did. Space Uber, says Gregorius. Yeah, that's kind of the idea. It's like not Uber X. What's the Uber service where you're like carpooling and they like pick up 100 people while you're driving by? There's an Uber service for that. It's I don't know, the specific Uber service. Somebody that uses Uber more than I do will have to tell me. Must have been the dishwasher in the cafeteria at SpaceX. Yeah, right. Got a lot of sound going on there, especially for the middle of the night. Seas were looking pretty rough. If we go back, where were they? They showed us. Let's go back to where they showed us the fairing catchers. There they are. You can see it kind of bobbing around in the water a little bit. It's tough to tell, but they're kind of bobbing around a little bit. Make it a little more difficult for a recovery attempt, maybe. Let's take a look. Let's actually go to the weather map and see what the seas were. Where's our weather map? Did I close the weather map? I don't see my weather map anymore. That's all right. We can open another one. Weather. All right, so this is wind conditions. Now the payload fairing catchers. Let's make sure I get this right here on my map. Let's collapse that. Zoom it in here. So the fairing catchers were right here off of Wilmington. What's that, South Carolina there? Or North Carolina? North Carolina. Wilmington's in North Carolina. Let's go back to our weather here. So they would have been right in this area-ish. Am I right on that? So these are wind conditions. Let's look at waves. Not a ton of wave conditions. Although it does say 3-foot waves. That's a little bit of rocking and rolling. It's not too bad though. Actually, everything's looking pretty calm out here. That's kind of interesting. Let's look at our wind again here. Because you do have a bit of wind picking up, which you could have had waves in the area caused from the wind there. But they would have been offshore a little more, like in this area here. So yeah, I don't know. We just didn't get it this time. What's the total number of Starlink satellites right now up there in space? So it's going to be a little less than, well, operational satellites, that's the version 1.0 satellites. It's going to be a little less than 540 because they're normally groups of 60, but the last 2 missions have been rideshare, so it's probably like 535 or so version 1.0 satellites that are up there. They had another 60 that had them closer to like 600, but I believe they're deorbiting them or deorberating them. Deorberate. It's gonna deorberate. They're gonna deorberate them. The version 0.9 satellites, and then there were another 2, Tintin A and Tintin B. They already did the deorbitification on that.
Deorberate.
All right, so I ought to make a command in the YouTube chat that just lets you guys control these sounds. Wouldn't that be fun? All of a sudden we were just talking and we just had random sounds come up like
Lobster Fest is on.
All right. So yeah, but the fairings landed in the water, obviously, likely a soft splashdown under parachute. They'll still be able to pick them up with the fairing vessels. They'll just fish them out of the water. They still could reuse them as long as they didn't break on impact. So a lot of times they'll just land nice and soft and gentle, and then they can pick them up, fish them out of the water, put them in the boat, and still reuse them. Although sometimes they break, and that's when they obviously can't use them anymore. I think that would be a bad idea. The trolls wouldn't stop. Yeah, I don't think I can give you guys control of the sounds, but it would be fun. Maybe once we hit 30,000 subscribers and we have some memberships, I'll turn that on just for like members only or something. One thing I want to do, which we might do after this first deployment, we might jump on Kerbal for a minute and see if we can demonstrate the Starlink deployment. Because that would be nice if I could get a video demonstrating that. I mean, I do like my 3D model, but it would be so much nicer if I could just have a video demonstrating that. You can also go back, take a look at the live view here. This is the live view of Pad 39A. Obviously no rocket there anymore. I wonder, can we see... We could probably see liftoff from this view here. Let's look at liftoff from this view. Does this view have sound? Now it's not going to load for me. You think this satellite will help people that are far from humans? I'm assuming you're talking about Starlink and internet service. Yeah, I do think it will help a lot with that. I think it'll help people that are, even people like me that, like, I have internet service, and obviously I'm streaming to you right now, but it could be better. Like, I have no competition here for internet service. There's literally zero competition. I have one internet service provider in my area. There's no option for me to use a different internet service provider. Can't be done. So it'd be great to have... Okay, that stream's not going to load. It would be great to have an alternative internet service provider, even just for somebody like me. That, I mean, I have decent internet. It's not terrible. I have decent internet, but it would be great to just have another option. Why did you change your webcam? You're just talking about like this view versus this view? I don't know, I made these other views, these square views, just to get myself out of the way a little bit. I got lots of views. We didn't really change much. I got lots of different views. Just something different to look at. Yeah, so Chusicon says it'll be low bandwidth, so not much of an alternative unless you're below ADSL speeds. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they have for bandwidth, because I've heard a lot of different things. I mean, one of the things they had talked about was offering, like, gigabit connection speeds. But I don't know how they do that, because the satellites do have limited throughput. Like, there's only so much you can send through the satellites, and they have a ton of people interested. There's like 700,000 people that signed up just for the beta. So that's, you know, you could have some bottlenecking there. But they had talked about potentially having up to gigabit speeds. Oh, what just happened on the map there? That was weird. So we're coming up now on deployment of those satellites here. Should be coming up in just about a minute and a half. We'll have the deployment to the rideshare satellites, the first 2 BlackSky satellites here. Wait on SpaceX to come back. And then I'll probably jump into Kerbal. I haven't updated Kerbal in a long time. There's probably an update available for it, isn't there? Yep, there is. Well, I'm not gonna update. I'm not gonna update it. But I will load it. Should I load it now? Will it? Oh. Oh. Well, there's Kerbal loading. Oh, there's John's back.
Observation, BlackSky microsatellites. Now, we're about a minute away from the first of the 2 satellite deployments. We got here with a great launch of stage 1. We also got to see the landing on the drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. We're getting to see a view right now looking from the camera on second stage all the way up the Starlink stack. And at the very top are the 2 BlackSky satellites. Second stage did 2 burns, put us into the circular orbit. We're about 400 kilometers circular right now, and we're coming up on the first of the 2 deployments, as I mentioned. That ought to be happening in about 30 seconds. We'll then go through a 6-minute period, actually about 5 minutes and change, and then we will get the second and final BlackSky rideshare satellite deployment. We're then going to go through another coast phase where we'll drop away briefly and then come back to see the 57 Starlink satellites deploy at T plus 1 hour and 33 minutes.
Coming up on deployment here. We probably... Oh no, this is not Starlink deployment. So they...
Global 7 deploy confirmed.
We've heard confirmation from the avionics engineer that Global 7, the first of the 2 BlackSky satellites, has successfully deployed. We're waiting to see if it might come into the field of view of the camera. This camera is mounted on what we call the payload attach fitting. It's a somewhat conical structure on the front of the second stage, and that's what the Starlink satellites are mounted on top of. That's the stack of satellites you see in the picture. And then at the very top are the 2 BlackSky satellites. And I think we're starting to get a view there. And right into the sunshine, or sun glare.
You can see it right here.
Not sure yet if that's a reflection or... But I think we got a short view of it there, and then it's overpowered the field of view a little bit. Camera's still working, though, so that's good. Now, as a reminder, way at the top of the stack, that's where the 2 satellites are. The second satellite will be separating in just over 4 minutes from now.
Yeah, so I see a couple of people confused. This is not the part where
as you can see on the map.
This is not the part where it rotates. This is the rideshare mission. These actually have spring pushers. So this part has spring pushers. It's actually going backwards in orbit. So it's flying this way right now. And they're pushing it away from it, behind it. So right now it's going engine first into the orbit, putting the satellites behind it. When we do the Starlink satellites a little bit later, in about 27 minutes from now, or maybe it's like 30 minutes from now, the Starlink satellites is where you'll see the flipping. So no flipping yet. We're not to that point quite yet.
Crystalline looking structure at the end of the tube, that is solid oxygen. So in the vacuum of space, that densified liquid oxygen we use when it actually comes out, that's a drain tube that helps vent some of it overboard. It'll actually freeze into a solid. So just think about that. That's oxygen that you breathe in solid form. It's actually fairly fluffy. It's not a very hard crystal, and you'll see them pop off if you watched our webcast before, or we may see one come off a little bit later.
Importantly, it's
I mentioned,
not a mouse.
We're getting data through Tasmania. If you recall earlier, Yomei talked about to accommodate BlackSky, we went down to 57 Starlink satellites. Now, we had to do that because typically when we're flying Starlink, we go into an elliptical orbit after one burn, and then we separate the satellites, and their ion thrusters will lift them to the final orbit. But for the spaceflight customer with the BlackSky satellites, we needed to get to a circular orbit. So that required 2 burns, the second of which you saw just a little while ago when we got to apogee. That circularized the orbit, but in order to do that, that took more propellant out of the vehicle, so you couldn't carry quite as much mass. So we traded off 3 of the Starlinks, so we're at 57 Starlinks on the stack. Again, another view there looking back on the MVAC-D engine. That's the solid oxygen out on the overboard drain line that you can see in that one camera view. Now, currently second stage is fairly passive. We deployed the first of the 2 satellites. We don't do any maneuvering, we're just holding it there. What we essentially are doing is occasionally we're letting a little bit of pressure out the back end of the vehicle. We want to make sure that when it's time to deploy the second satellite in about a minute and a half, that we aren't maneuvering the second stage. You know, this kind of, you can do a couple of things with the second stage for satellite deployment. One is you can go into an idle mode. That's where you're not commanding any of the attitude control thrusters, you're not opening any vent valves. You want the stage to be passive so that when the satellite separates, there's not the chance the second stage may be rotating or slewing a little bit. The other way that we'll see a little bit later with the Starlinks is you can spin the stage. That'll give a little bit of gyroscopic stability or rigidity to the satellites as they come off of the stack. So for the BlackSky satellites right now, we're getting ready for the second deployment, and we're just leaving the second stage in an idle mode where it's not maneuvering and giving good conditions for the deployment. The BlackSky satellites themselves are each held on to the very top of the stack with what they call a light band. That opens up with a motor, and then springs slowly push away the satellites, as you saw with the first one, moving away slowly.
So we should be coming up on that second
deployment here.
deployment here.
In about 20 seconds. We're going to listen in for the avionics engineer confirmation.
Now we're going into the dark side of the planet here. Probably be even harder to see it now.
Global 8 deploy confirmed.
And there it is, Global 8 deploy confirmed. The second of the 2 BlackSky satellites that are on top of the large stack that you see there. So we've got the first 2 out. There are 57 more to go. So right now, we've got, as I said, 2 BlackSky satellites on behalf of our customer spaceflight. Now that makes a total of 6 BlackSky satellites in the constellation. And we want to wish a bon voyage to the BlackSky satellites. It was our pleasure to give you a lift today into Earth orbit. Now, as I mentioned earlier, stage 2 is going to continue to coast in this orbit for another 24 minutes. Now, during this time, we will slowly spin the second stage along its central axis. As we come back to camera view, you may be able to tell it's fairly hard to see that we're spinning. It's very slow. But that will provide the stability that the Starlink satellites need as they space themselves out over time after they separate from the second stage. So with that, we're going to take another break right now. We'll leave you with the animation shows where we are in the coast phase, and we'll be back around T plus 1 hour and 32 minutes, a little under 24 minutes from now, for the deployment of our 57 Starlink satellites.
All right, so we got our rideshare deployed. Now we're gonna have some fun while we wait for Starlink deployment. Let's see if we can do our own Starlink deployment using Kerbal Space Program. So we're gonna try to build something up here. Let's see, what view do I want? This one, maybe? Yeah, maybe I'll do this one. All right, so we're gonna have to do this like, it's gonna have to be like just quick. So somehow, how do I do this quickly? I don't even know what to use. What should I use? I feel like it should just be a small rocket. And I don't want like a remote guidance. Yeah, maybe a... How big are these things? That's not too bad. How big is this one? That's a little smaller. Maybe we'll go smaller. Smaller? Let's go smaller. This little remote guidance unit. All right, and so... Oh, I lost my... You know, I thought I changed that when I click out of the program, it doesn't close the game. I'm gonna have to... I was pretty sure that I changed that, but apparently I did not. All right, how quickly can we build this? Why can't I click on things? Can I not? What is this thing? There we go. I don't even know. What am I putting on? MK1 liquid fuel fuselage. All right, so we're going to build a quick rocket. I haven't played this in so long. I don't even know what version I have. That's too small. It's been a while. Let's make this a two-stage rocket. We need some couplings here. Need a decoupler. Is that the right size? Yeah, sure. Decouple. Let's throw another one of these fuel tanks on. Actually, let's get rid of... I feel like we have too many upper stage tanks. Let's just do one. Oh, and we're gonna need an engine. Come on. We need an engine. How are we gonna fly without an engine? What engine should I use? I'm just doing this so fast. These are all huge, aren't they? Oh no, that's not too bad. What is this? Liquid fuel? Yeah, okay, we'll try that. And then we'll put that there. Yeah, there. Now we're talking. We'll throw another one of those down here. What do you think? Is this gonna fly? Okay, we got that. Now we have to figure out how to do a Starlink deployment. So I'm gonna try. So here's my thought. I don't know how to do this. You guys feel free to correct me on the best way to do this in chat, but I'm just gonna put like little tiny couplers, decouplers, and then I want like, I don't know, is there some kind of like, I just want like just a box. Weather analyzer, passive seismometer. No, these are all like landers. That's cargo. Utility. What can we... Communications. No. What should I put on top? Put some RCS so you can spin it. Oh, good thinking. Good thinking. We should put some RCS on there so we can spin it. What's RCS under? Engines? Control. Command and control? Yeah, there we go. Let's put some RCS on. Actually put this... Do I want to... How many of these do we want? Let's just do 2. Put 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom. Of our second stage there. It might be overkill, but I gotta keep an eye on the clock so we can go back and see deployment. All right, so I've got a coupler now. I need some sort of like satellite to deploy. What should I use for a satellite? Some of these are going to be... Oh, wait. Actually, what is this thing? Well, I think these are all, like, deployable. Science. Maybe a science something or another. Self-contained laboratory. Oh, that thing is huge. I don't want that. That's way too big. I just need... It doesn't even really have to work. It's just got to be... Like, can I just put, like, another one? Oh, that's huge. That's huge. Can I just put, like, another one of those guys? I just kind of want to do this. There's 3, 4. How many should we do? 5, 6. That's enough. That's enough. It's probably going to be too much. My rocket's not going to lift it. Then we need aerodynamic. Where's aerodynamics? We need a nose cone. Aerodynamics. Advanced nose... No, we need a payload fairing, not a nose cone. Where's the payload fairing? I know there's one in here, isn't there? Payload. Oh, there it is. Was I supposed to put this on first? I guess I have to put that on first, maybe? Gonna make it look something like that. Does that fit? Look at that. It actually kind of fits. All right, let's check our stage, and then I don't even know if this rocket's going to launch. Let's get some structural supports in here for launch. Maybe just 2 of them. Okay. Now let's check our staging. So we need engine and structural supports to go. Then we need... We're going to need this separation. Then we're going to need second stage startup. And then after that, then we're going to deploy all our satellites. Just like that. How's that? Okay. Let's try it. We'll call it Starlink. Starlink. Save it. Let's see if it launches. You need couplers between them so they separate. I have couplers between them. Let's try it. Let's just see what happens. Oops. Wrong monitor. All right, I make no promises. I'm not that good at this game. But here, I'm gonna have to mute this manually. We only got a couple minutes to try this. Okay, here we go. Oh, all three, yeah. Oh! Oh, no! That didn't work. What happened? Revert to launch. That is improper staging. That's improper staging. That is improper staging. Actually, I don't know if that was improper staging. That just might be a bad rocket. Let's try again. What? There's no thrust. Why do I have no thrust? How come we have no thrust? Somebody tell me what I did wrong. Revert flight to vehicle assembly. Okay, well. That was no good. What did I do wrong? What about fuel? I know, we got liquid fuel. MK1 liquid fuel. Does this not... do these not play together? How come I got... why? Thrust away. I've got 0 thrust on this stage. Why is that? Is this... Don't trust the thrust. Okay, well... Clearly... Is that not a... What did I do wrong? I don't know what I did wrong. Is this not a fuel? Are these not fuel tanks? What are these? Oh, it's a fuel fuselage. A standard fuselage that carries fuel for space. Oh, because that's for space planes. Okay, that's what we did wrong. It's for jet fuel. Come on. Come on, people. Where were you for that? Should receive substantial upgrades to fuel space program. Okay, let's try this one. 1, 2, buckle my shoe. There we go. Now we got thrust. All right, let's. Okay, get rid of this. Oh, I gotta do everything over again. Set these aside. No, you go over here. You go here. Get rid of you. We're gonna need that. How do I... What? What? What's happening? Go away. I can't click on anything. Click! Stuck. It's frozen. Now I can't do anything. What? Okay. Someone see if Gregorius fell out of his chair from laughing so hard. Oh, yeah. Ah, come on. Why? Now I can't do anything. Nope. It'll let me right click, but it won't let me left click. What? 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 I have no idea what's happening right now. Got a remote guidance unit, which I can't attach to anything. There. Attached. Then we need a... yeah, that can go there. Well, we got 2 remote guidance units. Okay, whatever. That. And then we need our thruster RCS pods. There. There. Alright, let's do our staging again. We want... let's see, we'll go main engine. Then there. Then separate. Then our second stage engine. And then I have all those... oh, actually, let's do our payload, our fairing deployment. And then that. Okay. Let's check our stats. Yeah, okay. I think we're better now. How much time do I have? I got like less than 10 minutes. Let's try again. Okay, here we go. We're trying again. Throttle up. Engine. Hey! Yeah, we got thrust. Now we're going. Now we're going somewhere. To the moon, Alice. Can we make it before Starlink, before SpaceX comes back? Oh, uh-oh, not good, not good. We're out of control. Oh no, oh no, oh no, turn on RCS or something. I have no RCS fuel. Oh no, oh no, this is not good. Oh, this is terrible. Oh, the humanity. Staging. Oh boy, they were gonna crash into each other. Oh man, what happened? God, I'm so bad at this game. Yep. And... oh, come on. Uh-oh. Oh my goodness, this is so hard to control. Oh no. Oh no. We're out of control. We're out of control. Well, here we go. We'll deploy Starlink just like this. Get rid of the fairing. Here's how Starlink deploys. It flips end over end like this. And then all of a sudden they just go like this. And then the satellites deploy. Just like that. Just piece of cake. That's, you know, guys, that's exactly how SpaceX does it. Oh man, my center of mass must have been so high. Center of mass, center of gravity. Well, we deployed. That was the rough idea of how that works. Oh my goodness, I'm so bad at that. Let's see, we got a couple minutes before SpaceX comes back. Elon is like, write that down. Yeah, that was perfect. And now the second stage. The second stage is it's gonna deorbitate. It's gonna deorbitate. There we go.
Deorbitate.
Here it comes. Coming in.
Deorbitate.
Oh. Oh, here's one of our Starlink satellites. Look at this Starlink. He's in well, not in orbit, but he's coming back. I blame it on the space lobster.
Space lobster ate the T-Teb. That's the answer.
All right. Two Doors wanting to see the Starlink launch, and we're playing Kerbal Space Program. I know, we're waiting for deployment. Why go to orbit when you can just toss them out at 10,000 feet? This is going into a SpaceX training video on how not to launch satellites. Come on, I thought that was pretty good. That was pretty good. Oh, goodness. Yep, Well, it served the demonstration purposes. I mean, let's be honest. The satellites all dispersed, like I wanted to show you. I need to work on that. After the stream today, I'm going to work on building a rocket and actually legit recording one. Let's get a better video of that for next time around. Oh man. Can you deorbitate when you never orbirated in the first place? Yeah, I guess technically not. We never got the orbirational and certification maneuver. And so I don't think we can actually deorbitate since we never incertified the orbiration. Okay, so that is exactly how Starlink works. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. There you go. This is what you come for. Quality education. Slightly better than a giant slingshot. I should save that. Let me put a marker in the stream so it saves. 5 minutes Starlink internet. It was great. Well, now we get a chance to see how SpaceX does it. I don't know. I'm not sure if they can do it quite as well as I did. But I'll let them show you. I just heard, I can't play it because they're still playing music, but they did just say that they have started their deployment spin. I imagine it looks very, very similar to what I just showed you. Almost exactly. When's your next gaming stream? I know, I should do one. Well, now that, after all this settles down, we've had a busy couple of weeks here with space launches. I'll probably get back to it over on my other, over on my Twitch channel. We'll probably do, we might have to try this out on the Overlook Horizon Twitch channel. See if we can get a, proper satellite into orbit. You had the spin down, just a shame it was still in the atmosphere. I know, it was like perfect spin. It was great. We just deployed it 10,000 feet instead of on orbit. Close enough. I wonder if Mrs. Horizon seen that one, is laughing as hard as she went. I know exactly the look she'll give me when I show her what I just did on stream today. All right, well, after that riveting education on how Starlink works, I don't know if we can... I don't know how to continue. Good enough for government work. I'm kind of... Oh, there they go. They're back.
For Starlink 9, just before we went on break, we saw the successful deployment of the two BlackSky
Thank goodness, they're back to save me.
Sharing with Starlink. The mission manager has confirmed that BlackSky has successfully acquired signal from both Global 7 and Global 8.
Acquisition of signal, Vandenberg.
We are less than a minute away from the deployment of our 57 Starlink satellites. You can see them appearing on and off on your screen here as we get signal from our ground stations. Deployment for these satellites will start at about T+1 hour, 33 minutes, and 8 seconds.
Watch for this rod right here will come out during the deployment. Pretty sure that's the one, right? Right there, just above my finger. This rod will come out right at deployment.
The second stage will slowly spin and deploy the stack of 57 Starlink satellites.
Heat shield says be careful.
Coming up in just under 10 seconds here.
Yeah, heat shield. I don't dual stream, or I don't join the Twitch partner program specifically because of that, because they don't let you multi-stream. So yeah, that's why I'm not a Twitch partner.
Starlink tension rod separation confirmed.
We lost video. Tension rod came out. Must be in between ground stations right now.
At the call out that we've had a successful deployment of our Starlink satellites.
Oh, there they go.
You can see the video just came back here of them floating away into space. To date now, we've sent 595 Starlink satellites into orbit. You can see on your screen there, the satellites are slowly separating from each other, and shortly they will deploy their solar arrays. Now, over the course of the next few days and weeks, these satellites will use their onboard ion thrusters to distance themselves from each other and enter their operational orbits.
Well, that brings our webcast to a close, and what a week it's been here at SpaceX. Just 4 days ago, we saw Crew Demo 2 successfully return home with NASA astronauts Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken. On Tuesday, Starship took flight at our South Texas location, and now we've capped it off with our 10th successful Starlink mission to date. As we watch the Starlinks drifting away, getting ready for their weekend, we'd like to thank you, our customer, Spaceflight, the Federal Aviation Administration for licensing the launch, and the 45th Space Wing and NASA Kennedy Space Center for their range support today. Now, if you're interested in future updates about Starlink launches, as well as general updates about future service availability, head over to starlink.com and sign up. As always, thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you next launch.
All right, so there we go. And I saw TP Seeker said that deployment set looked a little bit different. It did, I don't know, it did kind of look a little bit different to me as well. I thought I was just a little bit crazy, but it could just be that we're in, it just looks like a different camera angle, to be honest. But it does, yeah, it does look like we're getting a different angle here. Interesting. Looks a little bit different than we see. I think this is the angle that we're used to seeing right here. This is the angle that they normally show us for deployment, but they showed us a, I think this is a, is that the same angle? Or is this a different angle? No, this is a, oh no, that is the same angle. It's literally the same angle. Okay. I thought it was a different angle. I don't know why it looks different to me. Just looks a little bit different. Maybe it's just a different camera view than we're used to seeing. All right, well, I think it's super late. We've got our successful Starlink deployment. We've got deployment of the BlackSky satellites. We even got deployment of the Overlook Horizon constellation. Only lasted about 90 seconds before it crashed down to Earth, but it was fun nonetheless. I enjoyed it. I think I'm gonna call it here though, because it is super late. It is a work night, and I have to work tomorrow. And it's almost 3 o'clock in the morning. This was a lot of fun. We always have fun doing this. So hopefully you guys had a bit of fun. We got a tiny bit of Kerbal in. Got to hang out in the late night after hours. I'm sure I'll clip that Kerbal bit and we'll put it on Twitter at some point. So you guys can all laugh at me. How absolutely terrible I am at Kerbal. I need to get better. I should play it more often. But oh well. All right. I'm gonna go to bed. I'm exhausted. And I gotta work in the morning. I gotta work in like 5 hours. This ought to be fun. All right, well, that's going to do it for me, everybody. Thanks for hanging out, joining me for this late night, relaxed Starlink stream. Hope we'll be back for another one. I don't know when our next one is. When is the next one? Starlink 10, maybe? What is the next one on the schedule? Let's look at that before we leave. Let's figure out when we'll be back together. What we'll be back together for. Why do I have no... I need Starlink. I got no internet on my phone. What's happening? Okay. Well, I thought I could... Alright, what's happening here? Now, here we go. Okay. Astra launch tomorrow. They tried to launch that today. They'll be trying to go get their rocket orbital for the first time. Made in flight for Astra Space. They tried today at a ground or water suppression system anomaly right before launch, just seconds before launch. So they're going to try again tomorrow. We got maybe Rocket Lab's return to flight coming up in a couple of weeks. We might do that. Depends on when it is. And then other than that, I don't have... When is the next SpaceX one? Falcon 1B. That's not till the end of the month, though. The end of August. We'll have to do something sooner than that. Sirius XM. Sirius XM is putting a satellite up with SpaceX. That could be coming up. Those are kind of the next two big ones. And then maybe another Starlink. Starlink 10 at some point. Although I don't have that on my schedule. So there we go. All right. Well, I don't know when we'll be back, but we'll be back for another one soon. If you want to continue the conversation and hang out on Discord, I'll throw a Discord link in the chat for you. And you can join us. Continue the conversation on Discord with like-minded space people. Hang out with us and chat it up. There's the Discord link in YouTube. We'll throw one on Facebook. We'll throw one on Periscope. We'll throw one on Twitch. So that we get all the links out there. So that's it. You can continue the conversation and can't wait to see what the Discord has to say about the Overlook Horizon constellation launch. That was fun. All right. That's it, everybody. I'm leaving for real this time. My name's Tori. This is Overlook Horizon, and I will see you guys next time. All right. Goodbye.